Welcome to Transform Gov, the podcast where we bring you real stories and insights about how data and technology are changing the way public services are accessed and delivered. Transform Gov is part of the Ireland eGovernment Awards, and it's brought to you in partnership with Accenture. I'm Maeve Neefsey, and today we continue our conversation with Dr. Tony Shannon, Head of Digital Services at Ireland's Office of the Government CIO. Tony is one of the key leaders driving the state's digital transformation. In part one, we explored how Ireland is rethinking public services and its delivery under the leadership of Dr. Tony Shannon, of course, and the OGCIO in general. We discussed life events, a whole new approach to organising services around real-life milestones like maybe having a child or starting a business, and the development of a secure digital wallet for citizens. So if you haven't heard it, please don't miss part one. It's fascinating. We pick up here where we left off in part one by going deeper into the life events and the whole approach and how it's being put into practice across government. So, we have talked to other guests about this. It's really mapping out the end to end of what an ideal experience would be, right? And then saying, how can we design the services around that rather than saying, take care of my department and my department. So it's
exactly that.
So
exactly.
That's I suppose technology is going to be a big part of that, but also you don't have to change everything. It can be surface level to start.
Sure,
So what's your approach, do you think, to this in terms of putting a bit of urgency into it? What are you hoping for?
Well, again, just to go back to people, process, technologies, to the method. So again, we're trying to make sure that there's leadership there from the centre in terms of, saying this needs to be done. Trying to engage the users in a design process. I'll come back to the design process in a minute, but also engage some of the leading departments, like Department of Social Protection now has been asked to lead on the birth and death life event in next year.
Very good. We have Paul Lyons in next week.
So right, okay,
excellent.
Great. So essentially you're talking about a team there, cross-government team that needs to be formed or is being formed. The process needs to be an agile one, obviously. I won't be happy if we're not delivering in 2026, you could say this needs to be dragged out by 2030, but the idea is that 2030 is the end of the digital decade, not the start of it.
Yes.
So we need to be taking an agile approach to the change. And again, the service design approach and the user-centered design approach should drive that out in iterative agile stages. And then it's about, leveraging a combination of existing services that are already there, and the new building blocks that we're building out as digital public infrastructure, such as the Life Events Portal, Gov.ie, the Life Events Portal, and our digital wallet as kind of some of the cornerstone building blocks that we want to turn on at scale next year.
Okay, and on the kind of physical, if you like, delivery, the portal, where's the portal? Where's that?
So again, difficult to do justice without a visual, I think, but essentially if you can imagine or understand Gov.ie is the go-to place for information. Yeah. So we see the natural extension of that is that you will then get more information based on your life event. We're going to reorganise some of the content there. And then you'll be invited to log in to the services. We need to authenticate who we're dealing with. The MyGovID scheme is ideally and very well placed to do that. Yeah. And then you'll be in what is effectively a Gov.ie Life Events Portal view, where you'll be able to see some of your essential data and navigate to others, to services then around that.
Because I've used it a lot because I want to be able to talk about it properly. And you can see it's quite disjointed still, isn't it, in terms of the user experience?
Right.
Is that an unfair thing to say, or is that something you're working on?
Absolutely. And again, that's why we need the service design, users design to flush that out. I mean, we've got prototypes we can show people to show how we think it could be done. But obviously we have to recognise that there are other, elements of infrastructure out there like mywelfare.ie that we need to kind of work out how does the services they offer fit within this kind of model, for instance, And we're not trying to build a monolith to say everybody has to take, one big Lego brick of digital public infrastructure, but we're trying to offer a set of building blocks and find the right blend, if you like, of core ones that make it easy and seamless for the user. Yeah. So they don't really want to know or care so much about who's delivering the services. They want a consistent and easy to use experience across the public service. That's what we're most concerned about. And then we've got some work to do in integrating then to back-end systems behind the scenes.
And I suppose in a way you think, well, on the people side of things, are you getting who leads that? Is it everybody agreeing to do it and accept the strategy, or is there an element of convincing? I mean, how does that work?
Well, that's a challenge we're in at the moment. So, our department is leading on the Better Public Services and Life Event strategy between ourselves. I'm based in OGCIO, but also the Public Service Transformation team. We jointly lead that effort. But, we are obviously inviting leading departments to kind of step up to the table and kind of, take their place in leading on a particular life event. Now, obviously that's disruptive for each individual department to do differently what they've always done, for the greater good. I need to give credit to maybe John McKeown, who's looking after, the Department of Social Protection in terms of he's acknowledged that they need to change. So people like him who are not necessarily in the centre telling people or leading people he recognises the need for change. Yeah. And himself and Paul and others, I think, are working with us to try to make that happen then. But it's a challenge, and we need we need to see how we deliver on that next year for others to learn from that, and then we iterate from there.
Okay. Through the power of cloud, data and AI, Accenture is helping the public sector by blending human ingenuity, technology and a delivery-focused culture to turn their ambitions into action. Be ready for any challenge by adopting a continuous reinvention mindset to deliver human-centric services that adapt and grow with your needs. Contact the team at Accenture to find out more.
And in terms of, the pillars, you talked about the wallet. Where are we with the wallet? I know we talked about the portal, right?
Right. We have about 10 building blocks. And if I go back to that paper I mentioned from the UN, talked about how many building blocks are needed to transform the public service in this century. There's only about 20. These are generic, reusable building blocks. We're looking after about 10 of them. So we've got one around content management, gov.e. We've got MyGov.id as an authentication system that Department of Social Protection lead on. We've got our forms engine. Some of these, are already reusing open source solutions that are come from elsewhere. Forms, one has come from Singapore.
Do it once, share.
Exactly. Build to share is the model that OGCIO has had for some time now. This is an extension of that. We have a payment building block that we've crafted that's been inspired by the UK version. We've got a messaging building block. We've got an information mediator building block, an analytics building block, working on an A building block. And most of these are now, they're now in live service. Okay. The digital wallet then is one of those building blocks. And if you can imagine, you've logged in, you've come to look for a copy of your birth cert or driving license or whatever. The vision is that you come to gov.e to get to ask the question. An AI chatbot may answer the question. You'll be invited to log in to apply. And for most of the life events, there's a related credential that sits with that: birth certificate, driving license, etc., etc. Yeah. Exactly, yeah. So for each of those key life events, there's generally going to be a digital credential that will allow you then to use that in the rest of your life. And so our approach, and we've already built this technology, is to get those credentials in the digital wallet and make that available to people. And we've been building that for the last couple of years. We're in the middle of trying to align that with the European digital wallet specification. But we've already launched this last year. Okay. It's to the public servants who trialled it. Okay. And we're now wrangling with what legislative changes need to be put in place to launch to the public.
It always is a word that makes people feel a bit, it'll be a while. But anyway, look.
Indeed.
With the digital wallet, the idea I'm guessing is that this is my ID. I can navigate every service I need to in government using this ID, right? Correct. And I don't have to keep duplicating. It's kind of my way in.
Yes, on a voluntary basis.
On a voluntary,
obviously. Have to use it, but yes, absolutely. We believe it'll make life easier and people will want to use it. Yeah.
Okay. So listen, let's talk now, forget about ourselves for a minute. And what about internationally? What about us internationally? How are we doing? How do we keep a kind of a pace, I suppose, with the progress that's going on? I mean, look, everybody talks about Estonia. We know that. And the Nordics.
Sure.
What are they doing, though, do you think, that has made it easier for them, perhaps, to keep going faster in terms of their pace of change and adoption of digital government where people want it? Or are we coming up behind them? I mean, not that it matters, but it kind of does. We want to know how to be the best.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think, Ireland does well in some scores digitally from a government index point of view. I think in other areas, I think the Scandinavian areas, including, Estonia and Denmark, do have a head lead on us. And that's historical, some of it. They have had different cultural background, different appetite around, things like digital identity, just take that for granted. It's not an issue there.
We resist that a bit. I presume it's our own. Sometimes it can be our own cultural background.
Yeah. So difference in culture, and I think I do think Ireland. Obviously, we've seen massive change, haven't we, in this country in the last number of decades. But if you think about our history, we didn't have 100 years ago an engineering and innovation history. It wasn't part of our history in our DNA. I think obviously that's changed a lot. We are in the European HQ for a lot of stuff, but are we doing front end leading edge international development here in this country? It's a question, I think. I think we do need to see we have an opportunity now to step up and take a lead in innovating in the digital and data space. And obviously the private sector has done, doing that. There's questions about the ownership there, but certainly the question then is whether the public sector wants to take a lead.
There's a disjoint maybe, because in the private sector, I mean, a lot of companies are grabbing whatever they can. All of the people coming out of some of the big multinational digital companies are starting up their own companies, and that's a fantastic thing to be happening. But you spoke earlier, or you just mentioned there that we've a potential role that Ireland could play to kind of act between a kind of a broker between EU regulations and safety and the US innovation.
That's right.
So why do you think we have that opportunity, and why is it even important?
Yeah, well, I come back to that decade of change that we're in at the moment. I mean, you can see the winds of change are now highlighting the tension, if you like, that we can openly talk about between the European Union Commission and the regulation of big tech, which is largely US owned, So these are different forces, regulation in Europe, we're very strong on innovation. They're stronger on in the US. I think there's no, you can't dodge that.
Really. Yeah.
Different philosophy, different history has led to different, current state. The question is, what does Ireland do in there? We're kind of in the middle of that in many ways, because we've got European headquarters in Dublin for most of the US big tech. The European Union may wonder about our relationship with the US, and we have a very close relationship with the US, don't we, as a country? But I think what is in our interest is in the interest of bringing the two, if you like, competing methodologies or mindsets together, if you like. Yes, we need regulation. There's no doubt that we have to be careful the way we're doing things, particularly in the age of AI. Regulation is a necessary evil. But does it get in the way of innovation? I think there's probably plenty of evidence that it does, and the Draghi report talked about that. And the US obviously are now lobbying to get, the regulation
looser.
I think Ireland is in a position to broker that by kind of, I suppose, particularly with presidency coming up next year. I think it's going to be a big issue under the spotlight as to what would good look like, of a healthy balance between regulation and innovation. And guess what? It comes back to people, process, and technical issues.
Yes. I mean, I know that if you think about the way we look at work and our culture of innovation or entrepreneurship, we do tend to look at America, whereas perhaps France doesn't look at America the way we do.
No, correct,
and we do tend to follow their model. Now, we have, I think, recently not been too happy about what's happening to America, but let's hope it's a belief. But in the meantime, I think I can see there is that kind of understanding of both sides of the coin, really. And I think they have to come together, because we need big tech, right? And we need innovation at the same time. We need some sort of guardrails. So it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because there seems to be polarization. Oh, you're like that and we're like this. It
really is. Yeah, it is. But I mean, ideally speaking, Ireland would be the seed of innovation and startups and companies within this country, European companies that could work with the US big tech and collaborate together. There's a route for that around open source, particularly. So there are opportunities there for us. The idea of a tech war between the US and the EU. I don't think that's in anybody's interests.
No, and in fact, I was just to kind of back to basics. I was talking to Professor Smeaton from DCU about what's going on in the US, and we were talking about genetic AI within medicine and healthcare, and he was saying, well, the only real platform that actually is out there is a Microsoft platform. So there's so many things that the tech companies are doing that could benefit mankind.
Sure.
And it's just that how do we make sure that we don't make it impossible for them to want to be in Europe, and to benefit from that, that there is some collaboration. And in terms of the next, I suppose, ambitions that you have, what are you looking for in the next 3 years? What are you hoping will be achieved? And we've talked about some of the pillars. What is it that you think, look, it's really important to get through that barrier?
We have a plan that's been building for some time now around better public services, delivering digital services under a plan for 2030, all around life events, all around improving life events for people, and with digital public infrastructure, with the building blocks that I mentioned. So although the methodology needs to be tried and tested at scale now, and that's key over the next year, we then need to iterate on that pretty quickly. So I think ideally speaking, we would kind of, begin to learn how joint teams, again, people issues, joint teams and
cross-organization
teams can work in an agile and user-centered initiative manner with open, orientated tools, open source, open APIs to iterate and to get systems improved. That methodology needs to emerge, and I'd like to see that accelerated at some pace now. We did it in COVID times. We can do it again. If there's a will, there's a way to do it.
Yeah. And so are you working on a way of working?
Yes, we are. Yeah. So for 2026, we have been looking at the 4 life events that I mentioned. We've been looking at what we think, at least our own research suggests, what better life events along those lines would look like. We believe there is quite a close fit already with what a better service would look like and the building blocks that I've mentioned. And we've been doing some gap analysis as to where we think the gap needs to be bridged next year. Yeah. And we're now engaging with our colleagues. We've done several workshops with other departments to try to agree joint work packages for next year between us. That's we're in the process of signing that off at the moment for next year. Okay.
So if you could change anything that would think could be a barrier to us getting where we need to get faster. Let's forget about the world of possibility, just the dream world. What do you think you'd love to see change?
Yeah, I mean, again, it just a bit more impetus and and speed. I think the machinery of government, when I look at it and witness to it, I don't know that it's yet fit for the digital age. The legislative process, for instance, is an example, if you like, of is it fit for the 21st century? I'm not sure that it is. We have a body of legislation to work on and needs to change. But actually, even when we get through this change, we need to think about what's called digital ready legislation. So we need to think about what do we need to do quite radically differently to actually deliver public services, in the 21st century. And if I had a wand, it would be kind of how do you accelerate, that some of that processes, to move at pace. There would maybe counter arguments to say we need to be careful, of course, but I believe we have to change the way we're doing some of this. I say, the pressures to change are not going to go away, I don't believe. So we need to use this opportunity to learn how to do things differently now. Or we will suffer the consequences,
So if it means it kind of accelerating some of our decisions about legislative change, either preempting them and getting them moving more quickly.
Absolutely. We just need to get into the mindset that, digital 21st century digital government requires digital, ready legislation. So let's get on with it.
Okay, that sounds like something very exciting if we could actually get that moving. So by 2030, I have to ask you this. What do you think it's going to look like for citizens of Ireland in terms of government services online?
Well, I hope that it becomes a good story, a good news story. I mean, obviously, people have, I think, for the most part, many good stories about dealing with the public service. That don't make it into the media. But there are obviously a lot of stories of frustrations with public service and delay in infrastructure, for instance, and that doesn't reflect well on us as a country. I mean, it's a timely topic at the moment, isn't it? I think I'd like this to be an example of how you can do things differently. I mean, essentially the opportunity is there to take the ingredients I mentioned, team working, agile development, and an open approach to the using of infrastructure to quickly accelerate and offer better public services that are seamless and easy to use. Yeah. And if that's the experience of a lot of people, I hope that story will begin to take over and be a success story we can all be proud of and build on.
Yes, and of course democracy will benefit, right?
Absolutely.
Which I think people sometimes forget. The two are hand in hand.
It would be a very good reflection of the democratic process working well.
Yes. Well, look, that's a very positive note to end things on. Is there anything in particular that you've achieved so far that you're feeling really happy about since you joined?
I mean, I'm proud of. I'm very honoured to be in the role that I'm in and lead the team of very hardworking people who are doing a tough job. And OGCIO and colleagues in the department are doing, tough job, considering the size and the scale of the challenge. What I say to my team is that we are, in many ways, building out digital public infrastructure like people built out lighthouses, a couple of centuries ago. So I'm very proud of the fact that we have the honour to be building such infrastructure. That doesn't necessarily mean I get to see all the benefits of it now, but I do believe that the work we're doing now will pay off in the future. So I'm proud of that work that's going on at the moment, and I do hope in the fullness of time to see it. The effort that's been put in been rewarded with better.
Just a little
services.
bit more speed towards the end result, right?
A little bit of upping a tempo would be good right now. Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, thank you so much for coming in to talk to us, Tony. Really appreciate it. Very interesting things that are going on. Hopefully, there'll be other things to come back and tell us about again in the future. But thank you for being here on Transform Gov.
Thanks, Maeve. Thank you.
Now, before I go, I just want to thank the team, of course, who are here behind us in the studio. So, studio manager Peter Rice, video editor Neil Horner, sound engineer Richard Ryan and Lee Brennan, videographer as well. And thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Transform Gov.